Do you feel like your business has all the important bits and pieces to work on, talk about, develop, promote, and sell together with a great staff, but no storyline connecting the dots between your leadership, employees, ideal job seekers, customers, and other important stakeholders? In this milestone episode, I reveal what happens when your leadership, culture, employer brand, internal communication, and marketing start flowing from one compelling story. And I am not talking about a mere brand strategy. I'm talking about a transformation in the minds, ways of work, how you lead and message to your target audiences internally and externally. This is the competitive advantage almost no one is talking about yet. Welcome back to Story Driven Business Podcast. I'm your host, Susanna Rantanen, and this is episode 203. If you have been with me since episode 189, you know we've been building something brick by brick. Narrative, leadership, emotional employer branding, human-to-human business communication. And today we're going to zoom out to reveal what we've really been building, because this is called a story-driven business. This is not just a marketing tactic, not a campaign, but a full-blown operating system powered by one clear, magnetic, human-centered narrative. One that connects your leadership, your business culture, company culture, internal communication, external brand, and every person inside your business with clarity, consistency, and conviction. Remember those 3 C's: clarity, consistency, and conviction. And it's the competitive advantage almost no one is talking about, or if you're talking about it, you're not really doing anything about it. Let's start with a look back. Each of these following past episodes laid a foundation to a story-driven business. In episode 189, I argued that we need to brand our people the way the best companies brand their products, not just with perks, but with purpose and with the value add delivered. Episode 192 introduced narrative leadership, the idea that leaders who tell their own authentic story can inspire followership in ways job titles never will. In episode 195, I dismantled the outdated myth that employer branding is a recruitment tool. Instead, I reframed it as a narrative reflection of organizational behavior and employee experience. And in episode 198, I asked, what if internal and external communications were finally aligned under one story? And in episode 200, I said the companies of the future are movements with a business model. All of this has led us here to the story-driven business. What is a story-driven business? Let's define this clearly. A story-driven business is one where your purpose, business strategy, leadership culture means the way that the leaders in your company authentically behave and with the authentic value. You might have behavioral aspects and ideal attitudes and mindsets and obviously the official business values, but those usually are not what are the authentic values, for example, that your leaders go by, and probably not the ideal behavior that would really support your business strategy. So a story-driven business is one where your purpose, your business strategy, leadership, culture, and communication all speak the same emotional language, a shared living narrative. So it's not about telling your story in marketing collateral. It's about living your story, that business story that you all share who work in your company. In every meeting, in every email post, and that behavior that you witness internally and externally from your people, regardless of their roles, regardless of their responsibility or their experience as a whole or their experience in your business. Here's what that looks like. Leadership speaks in narrative logic, not this corporate fluff. Culture is shaped through values that are acted out and acknowledged through story. What this means is that the leaders that your company have, the values of your business are also their real values, the personal values that they had, even if they were not working in your business. At least some of them. Your culture is shaped through values that are acted out and acknowledged through story. And this one is important. Employer branding is not a hiring tool, but an ongoing communication process that binds your company culture with the business strategy, your purpose, and measures its impact through actual and authentic employee experiences, and uses it all as a messaging tool to document and narrate the business story in a way that invites your existing and future employees, clients, and other stakeholders on this business story and journey of yours. Yes, employer branding is no longer just about the talent, but about human to human narrative, influencing personal connection with stakeholders beyond transactions. So I want to repeat this just to make sure that we are clear about it. Story-driven business adopts a day-to-day narrative that reenacts what your business strategy, purpose, values look like when translated into organizational behavior, and how your people feel about your business, how they ideally and authentically engage with the business, their colleagues, your customers, how your people leaders ideally behave and execute your mission and purpose, and how you all as an organization together commit to your purpose, mission, and customer promises. This is no longer an idea or a concept. It is a proven method using the sciences of storytelling and persuasive communication to win sustainable attention, grow awareness, build affinity, and excite people to become part of your business's story with very specific roles and visions for their better future. This method is called the magnetic employer branding method, and you should not confuse it with recruitment campaigns or a hiring tool. It's an ongoing, very strategic communication and messaging system that helps you as a business to become a story-driven business step by step, changing the way your leaders communicate and message internally and externally with your people. And this helps you shape your company culture and narrate your organization through your business journey, through all the milestones to the end goals, emphasizing the values and the attitudes that help your business, help your people and customers succeed. So this systematic approach is what creates consistency, trust, and attraction. And this is how your business becomes emotionally sticky. You don't become a story-driven business overnight. It's a process. It's a journey in itself of narrative integration through 4 levels. The first level is called the narrative awareness. This is when you realize that your story is either fragmented or it's missing altogether. Your website, sales collateral, job ads, induction materials to new employees, and general internal communication all sound very different and definitely not connected and consistent. So the dots, even the dots may be missing, not just a line between the dots. And this realization is, of course, very uncomfortable because we've all been working so hard for all this. So I want to help you feel that you can see it as a powerful opportunity, because once you see the disconnect, you can start the shift. So then level 2 is called the narrative activation. Here's where the core narrative gets crafted and shared. Your leadership aligns around a purpose-driven, emotionally anchored story. Your internal communication, employer branding, and how your salespeople and customer care connect with your customers start reflecting it. In episode 192, I spoke about if you don't lead with narrative, someone else will. And this is I would hope, the lighthouse moment when you stop drifting and you actually start guiding. And then level 3 is called the narrative integration. This is where the story becomes the operating system. So you start seeing story-based rituals in your culture, in the ways of work, and in your organizational behavior, recognition tied to actual values, onboarding that frames the business as a mission, and, for example, employees retelling and reinforcing that story in their own language. And as we explored in episode 198, this is the moment where strategy, leadership, and culture speak through one voice, and the company feels alive with meaning and purpose. And then level 4 is what we can call narrative magnetism. So now the story spreads on its own. People feel it, they believe it, and they want to be part of it. You're no longer selling a role to a job seeker or a promotional opportunity to a existing employee, or product or a service to your customers. You're inviting people into this movement, and not just your existing employees and existing customers, but your leaders and your ideal job candidates, your other stakeholders too. So this is where retention rises, attraction flows, and advocacy starts to take over. And you will realize just how powerful story-driven messaging and communication can be. And I realize that this may sound overwhelming, but think of building a story-driven business as a journey as well. Start with where it impacts the most, from story-driven employer branding, as this forces you to assess your existing leadership culture. What are your real values and drivers behind daily decision making? It helps clarify how you lead your people, from setting goals to their performance evaluation, and how does your ideal talent look like, as in, what is their ideal work personality, ways of work, communication style, and what drives them at work and in their personal life as well, as all this impacts how well your leadership culture and purpose excites them on a daily basis. From there, you start applying communication in the forms of content to reach and remind. And as your people understand their role in your business story, they're more likely to lead as examples to others. And this is very powerful, as people who want to belong into a group, into a tribe, they follow and copy the behavior of those that are seen as leaders in that tribe. So as your business story expands layer by layer, the customer promise is added, and now your story-driven employer branding extends to how your people make your customers feel, ideally leading consistently to improving customer experiences and their satisfaction to your services and products and business. So now we are reaching the customer layer. Let me bring this up to you. Everyone wants to feel that they are met as a person, despite whether they use their employer's money or their own when they buy from you. So human-to-human communication is what really sticks. As you keep connecting the dots and turning the narrative into an ongoing communication system, internally and externally, your story moves forward with your existing and future employees and customers, because they start seeing clearly where they fit and why, and how being part of this story gets them closer and closer to their better life scenarios. And this is when we can start talking about a story-driven business, where all of your stakeholders have a role in your business story, where they are the heroes and you are their guide to better life. People from employees to job seekers and from customers to even investors form this emotional connection to your purpose and mission because they understand how your business story can shape their lives if they become part of it, if they commit to it. I want to address why so many companies fail this. They don't fail becoming a story-driven business because they lacked a plan or a strategy. They fail because they lack courage and commitment to execute it. It's so much easier to put it all on paper and create that plan as opposed to starting to execute it and then commit to this execution. You need courage to be vulnerable, to share not just the polished moments, but the tough ones too, the lessons learned, the pain points that you overcame. You need courage to be transparent about the ups and the downs of that journey and be emotionally honest about why the business matters to the people inside. And you need commitment to stick with the story-driven strategy, regardless of who's in charge of the business, marketing, sales, HR, communication, or talent acquisition. But the great thing is that when you are a story-driven business, you will attract people in these roles who want to be part of the story with the clarity of what it takes in each role, because it all will be built in and communicated through this narrative. So even if your CEO changes or your sales director changes or your HR changes or your communications marketing team, they change over time, the new one is not going to change the story because they are invited into this story in that specific role. And it is so much more satisfactory and so much more normal for them to just take over the responsibility of continuing to decoding that story with your target audiences because they were also invited in. So too often I feel that as leaders fear that showing the cracks will weaken the trust towards us. But the opposite is actually very much true. Vulnerability builds relatability. Relatability builds trust, and that trust builds commitment and loyalty. So when you lead with emotional truth, your story becomes believable, beautiful, and bold. Not perfect, but very powerful. So I want to give you this 4-step path to becoming a story-driven business, just sort of dipping your toe in it. So first you want to clarify the core narrative of the business. What is your business story? Ask yourselves, your leadership team, what is the story that we are really in? What problem do we solve? To whom? And why does it matter to them and to the world? Who is the hero? And hint, it's not the business. And what future are we inviting others to build with us, regardless of if we're looking at our customers, prospective customers, existing employees, or the future ideal employees. Step 2 is to equip your leaders to own the story. So narrative leadership means that every leader can articulate this business story in their own voice, from the angle that they look at it, from their role. How do they contribute to the entire story? Share their personal connection to the mission and communicate with emotional clarity, not just KPIs. You need to train them, you need to coach them, you need to support them. Step 3 is to reframe your employer branding, because this isn't recruitment marketing. It's human to human branding, an ongoing communication process that narrates what your purpose looks like in organizational behavior, how your people live the mission or are expected to live the mission and the values, and what makes the right people stay. And when they stay on this journey, how does it positively influence their personal future? What's their vision for a better life that being part of your organization helps them to achieve? It must connect, convince, and convert talent from passive readers to active believers and doers. And the step number 4, align every message. So your culture, your brand and communications, all messaging become this storytelling platform. So you want to make sure that your social media posts are not independent, but they become kind of like chapters of the story. Your slide decks become the scenes of this story. Your meetings become the story building rituals, and people start living and reinforcing the same shared narrative. I actually wrote a book about this that will help you to dip those toes into the sweetness of the story sea. It's called Story Driven Employer Branding because it all must start from how you lead, communicate, and narrate your business story, mission, and purpose as a leader and through your leaders so that you convince and convert each and every single people you employ. This is really vital as no marketing campaign is able to change the way people feel and experience your business purpose and mission permanently. So don't be fooled by the title of the book. It's not the kind of employer branding you probably think. And it must be read or listened. There's an audiobook version too, available on many platforms, but also on Audible, Amazon Audible, by your leadership team, your HR, talent acquisition, communication, and marketing, so that you can start the transformation as an entire organization together, not as this random campaign. This is about behavior, influence, and connection. Why story-driven employer branding is the heart of your story-driven business? Well, I want to clarify this, because when you start storyifying your being as an employer, an organization, this is when everything truly begins, because if your organization doesn't consistently run in an intended way, your sales fail and your customer success suffers, and that quickly turns into a lousy business with everyone looking at your management team thinking they're not very competent in running this business, and you don't want that, do you? Becoming a story-driven business starts from the core of the organization, setting the standards of operation to your organizational behavior, how you lead, set goals, drive performance, promote, reward, treat your customers, job seekers, and each other, and communicate internally and externally. Because before you can build a story-driven business, you need to build a story-driven organization and brand it. Because branding positions you as a specific entity. And that helps build the emotional level connections and commitment in those people who see themselves as part of your business story in the roles you invite them into, regardless whether we're talking about employees or customers or investors or other stakeholders that you may need. So branding is not a campaign. In fact, so historically branding referred to marking livestock, literally burning a symbol onto cattle to show ownership and distinguish one herd from another. As commerce evolved, so did branding. By the late 19th and early 20th century, branding in business started to mean creating a recognizable mark or name to distinguish one product or company from another, especially in competitive marketplace. I think Coca-Cola's, their iconic bottle, the Campbell's soup label, and Levi's red tab. Their branding evolved into a promise, this set of perceptions held in the minds of the consumer. It wasn't just about recognition, but also about association. A brand became a shortcut to trust, a symbol of consistency, and an emotional trigger. So when you see the Apple logo, for example, you feel innovation and elegance and creativity. When you see Volvo, you think safety. When you see Nike, you feel motivation and action and a personal challenge. And these feelings are not just visual, they are strategically designed experiences built across product quality, advertising, packaging, storytelling, and customer service. In employer branding, they are strategically designed experiences built across how you lead the employees you have hired to deliver the results based on your business strategy and build value for a business. Unlike in product branding, you can create illusions in employer branding. It has to be authentic because people will talk. They don't believe in it if they don't feel it. A brand is supposed to do more than just help you remember a company. It's meant to differentiate you from competitors in a very meaningful and relevant way to your ideal target audience. It's meant to create emotional resonance that leads to preference and loyalty. It's meant to build trust by setting clear expectations and delivering on them. And it's meant to motivate behavior, whether it's choosing your product or applying to your open vacancies or believing in your business vision. At its best, a brand acts like a magnet, attracting the right people, employees, leaders, customers, investors, and so on, repelling the wrong ones. And this is a real value add, as hiring wrong kinds of people becomes a costly mistake very easily. And if you worked in sales, the same applies to wrong kinds of clients or wrong kinds of investors. Creating this sense of belonging for those who choose you. And this sense of belonging creates the loyalty and the advocacy. In other words, a strong brand doesn't just talk to the audience. It makes them feel seen, understood, and invited into a meaningful brand story. And this, of course, is the pivot we've been pioneering at Emine in employer branding since founding our family business back in 2012. So employer branding isn't about campaigns or that shout, look at our perks. It's about who we are, what we believe in, and what kind of story you'll be part of here. This is about restoring employer branding to its rightful place as the human-facing expression of the culture narrative, the same way product branding expresses the customer experience narrative. Not a campaign, not a career site facelift, not a hiring tool, but an internal and external communication process led by HR, who shapes culture and coaches leadership, team leaders who shape daily employee experiences, communications who guide and amplify the story, talent acquisition who attract people through story-based positioning, and employees who continue the story loop as guides to their counterparts in the customer and other stakeholder sides. Story-driven employer branding teaches your entire business to communicate and behave in a strategy and purpose supporting manner through narrative. To understand who is the hero, always the target audience for the message, to step into the role of the guide and to influence, convince, and convert through emotional logic, because doing this leads into personal fulfillment for them. And when this narrative style becomes natural, it starts to redefine the culture itself. So what I want to tell you is that you can begin anywhere with baby steps or elephant leaps. All that matters is that you begin. And when you begin with employer branding from your leadership culture, connecting with your business strategy, purpose, mission, and values, and enroll that internally in your organization so that every single employee you have and will hire is invited into the story and understands their role in that story and can see what commitment will produce them in terms of personal value and better life. Alrighty, I'd love to know what the real story is that your business is telling today, if it is. And if you don't know how to get started, I'd love to get your questions and answer those in a future episode. If you haven't already listened to the first chapter of my book, find it on this podcast. It's podcast episode number 188. You can listen to the first chapter of my book for free. And if you like it, you can order the book and start taking the baby steps tutored by it. Find the ordering options at storydrivenemployerbranding.com. When you feel you may want to partner up to build a story-driven business from the inside out, obviously my agency Emine is here to provide you guidance and support in that. Email us at experience@emine.fi to book a discovery call. So thank you again for tuning in to Story Driven Business Podcast. If this episode made you reflect and rethink or reignite your spark, please leave a review and share it with your boss. I'll see you next week in the next episode.